RiverBender.com.
Higher and higher, baby. It's a living thing. It's a terrible thing to lose. It's a given thing. What a terrible thing to lose.
Alrighty, I'm getting there. 9:18, little bit of change. It's not downtown Alton. This is Representative Amy Elik. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, rolling with them today, you know.
It's a Monday, isn't it? I think.
It feels like it. That's all I know. Man, you've been busy up in Springfield and now getting back home for a little bit. It's got to feel nice just to get back in your own neighborhood.
It is very nice to be home. Yes.
And right off the bat, how has everything gone in this current session?
I would say it was a very hectic, chaotic session for me personally. I think just in general, the legislature is always very chaotic, but it was a very, very busy session.
Well, and fill me in on that, because I know we've talked about, to me, the big bill was the one with teachers where even though the student was 18, they couldn't be in a relationship or have, that type of contact. And that was obvious to me as being a no-brainer. But right now, as it sits, we're still fighting that battle.
Yes, we're still fighting that battle. So that was House Bill 4241, and this is my what I think of as like my most important legislation of the year. It makes it a crime for a teacher or educator or staff member to have sex with an 18-year-old or plus student. That's already a law for 17 and under, but we feel very strongly, based on cases even including in the area here, that no relationship of any sort like that is appropriate between a teacher and student, and that making it criminal is important because that puts something on someone's background check. So it got through the House unanimously. I'm telling you, it was a battle to get it heard in committee. It is Illinois legislature, the Democrats that control the legislature are against any type of penalties or new penalties for crimes or penalty enhancement. So I mean to tell you, it was a slog to get this through, and I'm so grateful that the committee chair finally let me have a hearing on it. I ended up doing some amendments based on some things he said, and then we came back, thankfully got a second hearing on it in committee, so that was a thrill. Finally then was released to have it heard on the House floor. And I've always said all along, if you let me do it in committee and you let me hear it on the floor, it will pass, because who in the world would vote against that?
Right.
So it passed the House unanimously on April 19th. I couldn't have been more thrilled, but really the battle was just beginning again, because then it has to go through the Senate. So my Senate sponsor started with all of the same things that I had done, begging and pleading, like, let us hear this in committee. So the Senate ultimately did not take up the bill. So we now will be focusing our attention on the Senate all summer long and into the fall to make sure that they hear it. They can hear it in veto session, and we will likely have a lame duck session as well this year.
Well, and going back to just a little bit of what you said with the penalties and trying to get rid of some of those I don't even know what really the proper term to call them. Take me to that, because for me, I mean, obviously there's some reform going on, and the whole Safety Act, and does that have anything to come into play with this when we're talking about penalties just across the board? Is there any type of correlation there?
I guess some. It's the same committee chairs that sort of control the flow of bills such as this that criminalize anything. So it is sort of the same people, the same players that have control over that process so much. Sadly, one committee chair can really make a difference as to whether your bill can get heard or not. And so I do truly appreciate the House committee chair that allowed me to hear it. I mean, we talked at length for a couple months before I finally got the opportunity. And then the day that I had my opportunity, I sat in the audience of the committee for 4 hours waiting for my turn, front row center, to make sure he knew I'm here. I will wait as long as it takes for me to hear this bill in committee, and he did. So we worked very well together on it. But in general, in Illinois, the Democrats feel that we have too many penalties in place in statute, and they don't like to add more.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough battle to get something like that through.
And it's good for us at home to kind of understand how that breaks down, because I'm sure so many of us think, well, why isn't it just getting done? Why isn't this going to the Senate floor? And there's a hoop step and a lot of red tape that it has to go through.
That is very true. And so once the bill got to the Senate, their staff reviews it. They present it to the Senate president, I presume, and the committee chair for the criminal committee. And I think, too, the timing of the process is once it got through the House and then over to the Senate, that's right in the thick of the budget talks. And the same committee chair who is on this criminal penalty committee would also have been their lead budgeteer. So I understand he probably was thinking, like, I don't have time for this right now. But like I said, now we know this. The next step is to get it through the Senate, and we have all summer and fall to make sure that we have our case heard in front of the Senate so that they'll call it. And I will say, too, there were 2 or 3 other bills on this topic. Not exactly this topic, but one was related to child abuse and grooming. Another one was related to victims' rights on cases such as these. And they also did not get through the Senate. So the Senate really was holding back on a lot on this topic. And I don't know, I think they felt it was controversial, which I don't feel like it's controversial at all.
No, it's very X and A, B even for me.
But I know there's another representative, a Democrat representative from up north, who had a very good bill related to grooming, and it got through the House.
Yeah.
But then it's still awaiting action in the Senate, too. So I think we are kind of keeping an eye on each other's legislation.
Well, and on top of that, too, because, it's great to have that insight on, some of the other things that are maybe just getting held up. And, there could be a correlation to the budget and everything else. But when it comes to technology and everyone's algorithm changing all over the place, and, honestly, it kind of freaked me out. I was over here working, and I was just, on Riverbend, and all of a sudden McAfee had a pop-up, and I don't have McAfee, that said, you're on an illegal site. And I'm like, whoa, I'm on my news site. What's going to... thought we were hacked. But to me, are there any talks about any of these companies that, can, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through Google, that can start really alerting authorities on, hey, he's on this site currently now. What can we do to stop it? Because it seems like it's always a year or two, a few months past the fact, and that victim's already been harmed.
I agree. And there are many child protection initiatives throughout the state. Some get through any given time and some don't. But you will see a lot of times I wouldn't maybe say opposition, but the pushback is from groups such as the ACLU, who are very, I guess, powerful, and they make their opinion known on watching to see, what could be incriminating someone without, proper representation or proper investigation.
That makes sense.
Right.
Well, and it's just one of the other battles that you have to fight as a state rep. And,
definitely.
One thing we don't talk about is it's very hard to do your job. And I'm not saying that because you're here or anything else like that. For the folks, I'm going, he's playing favorites. I'm not. Any rep, it's a very tough job. You have basically 6 months to a year to really work because you're always up for reelection or you're going to campaign eventually in the summer. How do you manage everything? Because that's got to be tough.
Yeah, so, I run every 2 years, so I'm on the ballot again in November, and it is just, whether in a year that I'm running or not, it is just juggling. It is juggling, the constituent services work with the legislative part and the training and the task forces and all the things that come along with the job. And then, of course, a personal life, too, and your family.
Right.
And so you're just basically, your balls are always in the air and you're juggling, and you're just figuring out which one's going to fall that day.
I hate to do you know how many roughly are in your district by chance?
Each district in the state is around 110,000 people.
Wow. And, I was looking at something. I know we're going off topic, but we'll go back to the session. I was looking at whenever we first started Congress, it was like one rep was covering 32,000 people was basically the number. And now it just keeps growing and growing and growing. But, when you have a good staff like you do, too, it helps to be able to coordinate with your office and really line things up.
I have wonderful staff here in the district and in Springfield. I'm so lucky and so blessed that they are there to keep me on track, keep my schedule moving along, and to mostly, though, help constituents and make sure that people are getting good customer service. And that was really important to me from day one.
100%. And now going back to the session, let's go talk about it just overall. I know the big one was the bill that's currently going through the rounds in the Senate, and we're going to keep fighting for that one. But other than that, any other bills that you were working on that you wanted to share?
I do. I'm actually really excited. I had a very successful, and I think that's why the year was so busy and chaotic, but I actually had 8 bills that I passed through the House. So one of those is still in the Senate. 6 of those have passed both houses, so that means they will be going to the governor soon to be signed. And then one bill, it passed the House, and then when it went to the Senate, they took that language and put it into another bill. So that's still passed. So that should be signed any time now. So I had a very successful session, and if people say, like, you're a Republican in a super minority, how do you get things done? You work really, really hard, and you put forth smart legislation.
Well, and
that's how.
You're right, Amy. And on top of it, too, it's how you talk to people as well. And you're very apt to work with anybody as long as it's good business for the people.
Definitely. And I think you know what, I didn't look, but I'm pretty sure all of these bills passed unanimously.
Did they really?
If not unanimously, I might have had a one no here or there, but they were very, very popular and made sense. And I do work the bills really, really hard.
And, take me through some of the bills, just because, we always get caught in our 9 to 5 and forget about all the work that you're doing. But fill us in on the bills that passed.
Well, one of the other ones that I'm really excited about came from some constituents, both here and south of the district. House Bill 4255 will allow tow trucks to begin using green lights along with their white and amber flashing lights. And I had been working with a local constituent on concerns that tow trucks are on the side of the highway and aren't able to be seen very well, especially in the daylight. And so actually I was working on a bill last fall, and then in November we had an accident on 255 where a tow truck driver was killed, and his name is Wade Bivens. And so the tow truck company that he worked for was trying to find ways to help on this matter because that is such a concern. So it's sort of just by chance we met up, and I met with a lady there, and she's just adamant, like, we've got to do something about this. So that kind of put more fuel in my search for a solution. So what we ended up with was green lighting, and I worked very carefully with the state police and some others on the language in this bill, and they kind of helped me make it better.
Well,
frankly.
I'm sure that would have been very intricate.
Definitely very intricate, because they have to be very specific. But so that passed the House and then passed the Senate. Senator Harris, our senator here for the district, put that through the Senate for me, and it passed, and I'm thrilled for that.
And now with this law when it does go into effect, do we have to move over for those tow truck drivers now?
You have to do that anyway.
Okay.
Yes. So you should be doing that anyway when you see any type of emergency vehicle on the side of the road.
There you go. Because
but the legislation does kind of clarify that this is included in Scott's law.
Because I'm not being funny, but I was driving down going into Edwardsville on 255, and I always get over, because I have like an old man. I ain't going nowhere, and so I always get over. But there's always, for police, everyone gets over, but for tow trucks or for any of those type of like on-site saving vehicles like OnStar or any of the others, they just don't. They just kind of fly right by.
Right, and you absolutely should slow down and move over, and it's for the safety of those folks on the side of the road that want to go home to their families. And so I think with Wade Bivens' death and trying to do something that helps people going forward, I know it's been very rewarding to work on this topic.
Absolutely. Well, and too, I'm sure for the tow truck driver to feel like, hey, you know what? We are getting at least noticed and recognized that our job's dangerous too.
Exactly. There's some scientific information in there too that we had to kind of investigate through green lighting versus purple lighting versus this, that, and the other. So
Really?
it was a little interesting, like why green, and there is some scientific research to back that up.
Is it due with like color blindness or anything like that?
It's not so much color blindness, but just how like the glare at nighttime, and then how conspicuous it is during the day. So there are some studies about that, and that's why we ended up going with green.
Really cool. And fill me in on the other bills that you're doing too. This is just great, Amy.
So the bill that I passed through the House and got included in a different bill that passed, it allows retired teachers to return teaching in a subject shortage area without impairing their pension. And that's a very specific procedure that they have to go through to do that, both schools and the retired teacher. So that is going to help with this teacher shortage. It extends, it's a current program and extends it for 3 more years. So
Wonderful.
that's good. And then the Senate bills, let's see, training, State Board of Education wanted more training for school board members related to student outcomes, which of course is the most important thing. So that is going to happen. And then related to Medicaid and long-term care, there is a 5-year look-back period when someone applies for Medicaid, and it's very confusing, pretty complicated, and oftentimes people have to go and get an expensive attorney to try to help them figure out, can I qualify for Medicaid for long-term care? So the easy solution was to force the department to put more information on their website and to make the calculation known so that people don't necessarily have to go to an attorney and spend some of their money, and they can figure out what they need to do to get qualified for long-term care Medicaid.
Well, and a lot of these, Amy, it's really nice to know, because a lot of these are just, for me, no-brainer bills, or what I call them, because, you can't expect someone who can't afford health insurance to go and pay for an attorney to fight for their health insurance.
That's exactly it. And, some like this is something that the Healthcare and Family Services could have done on their own, but they didn't, and they won't unless we tell them to. So we did that, but that was unanimous. And really, I had so many people say, my goodness, this is such common sense. Why haven't we done this before? And I said, well, exactly. That's why we're doing it now. And
Good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
And then 3 other bills that started in the Senate with our Senator, Erica Harris, and then I passed them in the House. One is related to the issue of litter along 255.
This was a big issue on our show.
Popular topic. So trucks leaving landfills must wash the trucks before they leave. So this has been in effect in other counties. Previously, it would be counties over 275,000 population or more. So we lowered that to 250. So that picks up St. Clair and Madison are the only 2 that this affects now to add to the list of counties that have to do this. So we are hoping that that's going to take effect and make sure that they're cleaning up so they're not getting that sludge all over our roads.
Well, we were celebrating you and Senator Harris that day. Rusty Wheat was fighting for a long time on this show, and he got to celebrate.
Definitely.
And it was needed. I mean, that's
Definitely.
Really, and it's a good bill. It really is.
Yeah. I'm excited we got that through. And then let's see, another one of Senator Harris's bills, Truth in Taxation Notice. This is related to transparency of when taxing districts have to raise their taxes by a certain amount. They're supposed to notify people. So oftentimes you'll see that like in the fine print in the newspaper, but this would make sure that they're putting it on their website for at least 30 days and that they put it in a conspicuous place, not to hide it away. So that one is good for transparency. And then the last one was those AED devices that are life-saving devices that are in schools now, but and they're usually just near physical fitness facilities, but we want to make sure they're available near places where the other extracurricular activities are going on. So like, for example, the drama department might have a whole crowd of people watching something in the theater. It's really important that we have the access to those and that those don't get locked away at the end of the day in an office somewhere where somebody can't access them. Well, and that one was again, who would vote against that? We want to have those devices available.
Well, right, and that's just going through the gauntlet. It just seems like the 2 big ones are huge with the flashing lights, because that is needed. And honestly, you're right. During the daylight, you really don't see the red too much or that white in case even the brake lights being on because of the sun glare.
Exactly.
So I mean that's huge. And then of course going forward, that big bill that hopefully the Senate takes up and a lame duck or going forward passes. But throughout the year, it's hard to pick what you're most proud of. But in terms of just operations, what are you the most proud of instead of bill wise?
I would say just customer service in the office, trying to help people solve some really intricate problems that, I mean, no case is ever the same as the case before.
Right.
And so just working with people to try to find the best solution, and we do our absolute very best. And if we can't find the answer, we try to find who can find the answer. And we just really do our best to do that and be available to constituents.
One thing I wanted to note too is that you and Senator Harris really work well together.
We do, yeah.
And you know, people don't understand that's normally that's a pretty good thing to have. That doesn't happen all the time, where your
True.
state rep really works hand in hand, you know, with your state senator and vice versa. Take me through that partnership.
Sure, we do. And we knew each other before. So she was elected in 2022, so just took office a little over a year ago, January of 2023. But we did know each other before, but not, I mean, she was on the county board, but we didn't have like that just baked in working relationship. So when she came in, like she has just done a fantastic job representing the communities here. And we would, especially when, you know, we're often at the same place.
Right.
Obviously, we get invited to the same things. But we also, especially when we're in Springfield, we're constantly in communication about, hey, such and such agency contacted me and they're needing this. And we go back and forth on trying to work together to find the best solution. Or when we're voting too, we watch each other's voting record, and if we're thinking something different, we can text and say, "Hey, why did you vote no on this? I was going to be a yes. Is there something you know that I don't know?"
Yeah.
And so sometimes people think the Senate and House Republicans, for example, are always in lockstep. There's different things that get brought up in debate on different bills in each chamber, and because we're in at the same time, we can't watch each other going, you know, what's going on in each chamber. So we really just have a great opportunity to communicate and make sure that we're doing the best to serve our constituents.
Absolutely. And now going forward, I mean, you got about 5 months now till November. What are some of the issues that you're hearing about the most here locally?
I would say number one is cost of living. For everything, prices have gone up. Mortgage interest, of course, real estate taxes, food, groceries, everything has gone up. So except for paychecks, right?
It's true.
So paychecks aren't going up by maybe the 30% or whatever that food and everything else has.
Right.
So just trying to find ways that government is not the problem, which unfortunately in Illinois, we are a problem, right?
Yeah.
But we're doing our best to make sure that we are minimizing the burden on taxpayers and on families. So that's one big thing. Public safety is always important in Illinois, especially when we see so many crime reports out of St. Louis and we're right here at the border. That's always going to be an issue.
Well, and going forward too, when you're talking with your constituents, is it hard for them sometimes to, and I shouldn't say that, but is it hard to separate the national election and when it comes to a big election like this, 2024, is it hard to separate the national issues from the local issues, and not for you personally, but just for the district wide?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we get a lot of emails and calls to the office about things that are federal issues that we don't have any control over or that we can't influence. And so we always try to get people to the right person. But a lot of it is just viewpoints on politics that I'm always welcome to hear, but I don't necessarily, like, my opinion on the presidential race is probably not going to sway anyone else's opinion. Right. So, and then there's just different things that in an election year, within the district office, I would ask people to understand. So my staff cannot tell you who to vote for.
That's a good point.
Because we legally cannot do that. We cannot advocate for or against certain candidates or anything like that. We can tell you, like, I can do that outside of there, and I can, like, I as the politician, but my staff, if you come in, they cannot say, vote for Amy. Not even me.
Right.
They cannot do that. They have to say, like, they can say, here's who is on the ballot in November, and I can print you a sample ballot from the government website, which is the county clerk's website, but I can't sit there and fill it in for you. So I think that's something important for people to understand. You wouldn't want that because what if we were advocating for something you didn't like?
Right.
You wouldn't want us doing that in a state office that's paid for with state tax dollars. So that's a good thing that we're not going to sit there and tell you who to vote for.
Well, 100%. And now I wanted to ask you a little bit more about just the Safety Act and policing overall. Recently, not even a year ago, we lost Renaya Stewart, who was killed by somebody who was recently just, in prison not too long ago. And is there any talk about maybe making more of a stand to prevent some of these I hate to say it, but recidivists from coming out of prison and committing the same crime. This morning, we just had another drive-by shooting where the guy accused has already been convicted of second-degree murder, and he's out on our streets.
It is very frightening, and because of the Safety Act and other just, public safety issues that have gone on through the Illinois legislature and other places, we have right to be concerned that someone's going to get out of jail very quickly. You can disagree, or you can agree that you can think that the Safety Act was a good thing,
good concept,
because it got away, because it did away with cash bail. But there are certainly cases where people are getting out of jail and committing more crimes. So one, I think support for our police is just paramount, and I hope they would say that I support them. I think that I do, and that is absolute paramount.
Yes.
And I appreciate every single thing they do, and we should all be so grateful for the services that they provide, most of which we'll never even probably know about.
100%.
But I think that is where that opinion in Illinois that penalty enhancement is a bad thing, or that new penalties are a bad thing, that's where it's very, very frustrating in Illinois. And that we should hold our lawmakers accountable for their votes on that.
Absolutely. And going forward throughout the next couple of months, what does your schedule look like in terms of just getting out and meeting some folks? Because I know that we talked about it. You guys at the state representative level have just groundwork after groundwork to cover. What's it look like in this couple of months while you're actively working and I'm sure campaigning at the same time?
Well, a lot of it is catching up right now from being gone for almost 5 months out of the year in Springfield so much. There's a lot of catch up on meetings and lunches and things like that. So that's fun. And then we get invited to events all the time. Busy weekend ahead with various events going on throughout my whole entire district. Actually, I'll hit the whole district, I think, just on Saturday alone. But personally, though, too, I have a lot. I'm on a couple task forces that will meet probably virtually over the summer. I have a lot. I've got a couple conferences I'm attending to. It's all about learning and staying fresh on different legislative topics and ideas, and then continuing it. I'm still a certified public accountant, so I have continuing ed that I have to get done by September.
No.
So I'm going to be very, very busy on various things, but number one will be just being in the communities that I serve.
And before I let you go, is there anything coming into play in terms of AI and any type of regulation that you guys are seeing state level?
Sure. Yeah, we've passed a bill to make sure that images, especially of children using AI in sexual situations, is outlawed. The Attorney General has been pretty strong on that. I would give him credit for that. And I think as quickly as technology changes, our laws have to adapt to what could be out there. I do feel like people are usually willing to go to bat for children being victims. Yeah. And so we just have to keep pushing them on my bill that we talked about.
Exactly right. So. Well, and how can, area constituents, maybe, reach out, and maybe they aren't here, but they watch this interview, some portion of the state, and they go, this is a great bill. Can they say, hey, I just learned about Representative Elik's bill. I'd like you to look into it more.
Absolutely. Contact their own senator.
Yeah.
Just the senators at this point, like I said, because the House has already voted, but the senators, let them know you like and support this bill, and if they're not already a co-sponsor, which many are, have them get on as a co-sponsor, and they can always call me in if they need the details.
Just do it respectfully.
Please.
Yes. But before I let you go, what are you most proud of this session currently? Is because you have a lot really to be proud of, with a lot of bills being passed, a lot of collaboration, a lot of unanimous bills. For you, what is it?
Oh gosh, I would say all of those things. I will tell you, I think just in a general sense, I worked really, really hard this year, and it was a battle to get some of these things through, and I'm super proud that I got 8 bills through the House. It just really feels good to do that, and they're impactful bills that will mean a lot once they take effect.
Absolutely. And is there is your website up for more up-to-date information on the bills you're being passed throughout the summer?
Yeah. So I would really encourage people to do 2 things. One, visit reelection.com. We keep that pretty well updated, and you can also watch my closing speech for the budget debate that I did this year. Anytime I speak on the floor, they usually isolate that video or audio and they put that on my website. But also you can go on my website and sign up for my email list. And so especially during session here the last couple months, we've been doing almost weekly emails of what's been going on the week prior. It may slow down a little bit this summer, but we definitely are trying to keep a lot of content being sent out to people.
I forgot to. Weren't you recognized as Republican leadership this year?
Yes.
Too? Don't ever let me forget that. So,
I forgot to. Sorry. Yeah.
So I got to ask
Yeah.
you about this. Is
Yeah.
pretty quick, to kind of rise through the ranks. And I'm not patronizing you because you're here. I even said it in the office, going, "Man, she's only been there." But how does it feel to be recognized so early on for your leadership roles in the Republican Party?
It feels really nice, and I think it's just a sign. If you don't know what else it means I'm really working hard and doing some leadership, or I guess taking advantage of leadership opportunities within the caucus, and was recognized for that. So our leader, Tony McCombie, who's just fantastic, asked me to be a part of her leadership team earlier this year. So I guess I'm Assistant House Republican Leader Amy Elik. But as far as what does that mean for the district, it means I certainly have a seat at the table within my caucus and have some opportunities within the legislature
And that's a big deal.
that I've worked to get to.
And it's a big deal for us. I mean, it's huge for our district overall. And Representative Elik, I always love talking to you. I always tell you, 20 minutes and 30 minutes later, here I am rambling.
Time flies.
But best of luck throughout the summer. If you want to come back on beforehand, you're more than welcome to always.
Appreciate
And
it.
let me know when that darn bill goes through.
I will. Oh, you can bet I will. You can bet I will.
Sounds great. At 9:48, a little bit of business. We started a partnership with Centerstone. On the first and last Wednesday of each month, we talk to somebody from Centerstone to discuss mental health and substance use disorder treatment and some of the options that are available here in Madison County because of the opioid crisis. And folks, if you're looking for a fresh start on the road to recovery, a life free from addiction is possible, and it does start at Centerstone. Centerstone's dedicated clinicians use evidence-based practices in their treatment programs, so that means you aren't getting that same, maybe it worked for 10 years, maybe it didn't. It's developed and tailored for you. There's so many unknowns on that road to recovery, but folks, you can know one thing for sure is that Centerstone will be there every step of the way. You can learn more at recoverwithus.org. That's recoverwithus.org, or by calling 1-877